Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Hello friends, and welcome to Fairfield Today. Thank you for joining us on what is now a beautiful day as we telecast from the lobby downtown of Fairfield Federal. Fairfield Today still going strong back at Fairfield Federal. We're pleased to be back with here. Knock on wood that we don't have any changes as things kind of tighten up and move in a different direction from what we had hoped for a while. But we'll just play it by ear. And again, all of our shows, no matter what the subject is, who the guest is, what the program is, everything revolves around the pandemic, that is for sure. And one of the places hit hard locally by the shutdown, by the pandemic, was the Robert K. Fox family. Y. Pleased to have the director of the Y with us, Howard Long, and it's been a while since before the pandemic we had you on, Howard, and I think back 2.5 years since you've been here? 2.5 years. Howard's been the director for 2.5 years of the Y, and 90 days in was when the big floods hit. If you remember, when all the rains hit kind of on the west side right there by the Hocking River, the Y, terrible flooding condition. I remember being there that morning and they were coming up the steps. I come in the front, which is off the parking lot of 6th Avenue, but the people that came in through the back, the water was coming up the steps. That was that morning, and it only got worse from there. And I thought, it couldn't get any worse than this at the Y. Here he is, 90 days in, the guy, what has he walked into? Well, be careful what you wish for, because now 2 years later, 2.5 years later, here we are. Howard, it's been an interesting ride.
Amen. Baptism by fire, as
wow.
they say. Yes.
That's about the only thing you haven't had. You've had floods and pandemics. We hope it isn't a fire.
Yeah.
But and again, I'm a member of the Y and always have been, and certainly shut down for several months there. They're back in running fashion. In some, like most places, is kind of semi-running, doing things at about half speed or so. As you assess things, as you've been able to come back, what are your thoughts?
Well, one, we're so appreciative that we were able to reopen. I can reflect back on March 17th when I had to lay off 125 staff, around 117 part-time staff, and then about 7 directors. That was the hardest day ever. And then not knowing when we were going to be able to reopen. We were lucky enough to apply for the payroll protection plan, and we were able to bring probably about 98% of all my staff back about 5 weeks before we opened. Again, when we brought them back, we weren't exactly sure when we were going to reopen, and my worst fear of that is that we were going to go through the 8 weeks with PPP and then have to let everyone off again. But then the governor announced that we were able to open up on May 26th. And how that really helped us is in that 5 weeks, we were able to clean like we've never cleaned before. We trained, we staged, we rehearsed, and we got all our roles down, and I think that was really helpful. So when we did open up, my staff were anxiously nervous, but in the same respect, we were prepared. You walk into the Y now, and there's no place to sit. You come in and you have a temperature check, you scan in. First time you walk in, you have to sign the COVID-19 release holding the YMCA harness. You go upstairs to the fitness center, and we've completely spread it out. We've eliminated one of the track lanes. Every other piece of equipment is either covered or removed from the floor. And we have a tag system on all of our equipment now. Green means that the machine has been cleaned by a staff member. When the member is done using the machine, they flip the machine over. My staff then come in behind and clean the machine. So every single piece of equipment is cleaned after every single use. You come downstairs to the swimming pool. We were going back and forth initially in the beginning. Is it going to be a one person per lane, or can we do it responsibly and have 2 people per lane? And we were able to, one person starts at one end of the pool, one person starts at the end of the pool. There's always going to be the crossover. but we felt comfortable enough with that. So we were able to have 2 per lane. We opened up both pools, so we had 12 lanes for lap swimming in the morning, and then some recreational. I didn't open up the showers right away because I wanted to go through a couple of weeks and to see how things went. I really based off my comfort level. Per the guidelines, we were able to open up the showers that correlated to the swimming pool. And in each of the men's and the women's locker room, there's 3 showers. I opened up only 2, keeping them spread apart. But we're also obligated, and again, we have a tag system on the shower. If it's clean, it's been used, flip it. It means that we have to come in. We have to clean the showers after every single use. Overall building, right now I have it broken into 8 zones, and every 2 hours, every high contact surface area is cleaned. That's the stair rails, the doors, the toilet handles, the urinal handles, the sink handles, the sinks, everything. Lockers, and that's at 7 o'clock, 9, 11, 1, 3, 5, 7, and that's what we have been doing since May 26th when we opened. I wake up in the middle of the night and I think I'm cleaning something at this point in time. We're very blessed to be open. We had put everything in a 4-phase program. I'm right now in phase 2. It's going to be very difficult for me to get to phase 3 and 4 at this point, unless the social distancing, that 6-foot sticker I have on the ground changes. But we were able to bring gymnastics back on June 1st. We took over the basketball court. We spread out the equipment. We created 9 pods for the girls. They will work in a zone. Before they can go to the next zone per se or pod. Everything has to be sanitized and cleaned. Lobby, you can't. The lobby, the locker room, the locker rooms are closed at this point in time. Again, they have to scan in, temperature check everyone, wash your hands before you enter, and we were able to bring back swim team. Swim team's back in the evening. We brought programs back 2 weeks ago. But during this whole thing, we were also running pandemic childcare. We were regular childcare to pandemic childcare, I believe, switched over around March 26th. Okay. And again, that was only for what was deemed essential workers. I believe when they originally offered the pandemic, there were over 2,000 YMCAs and private child care centers across the state that applied for the pandemic child care. They hadn't finalized what the ratios were going to be at that point in time. And then when they finalized it, and it was no more than 6 in a room, that 2,000 went to just over 900. I think it ended up around 937.
Made the winnowing started.
Oh my gosh. Well, and the initial thought process is that, you were going to be bombarded. We were never bombarded with numbers. I think the busiest we had in any given week was about 17 children. So we had them completely spread out, and under pandemic ruling, you had your own classroom, you had your own bathroom, and you had your own play space. There was never a cross-contamination of anything. So now we get out of pandemic and we go in, because we really switched from pandemic into summer camp. Well, if the ratios went to 9 at that point in time, and I would only have 3 classrooms at that point. So we relicensed 4 additional areas in the building. The old lobby is a classroom right now with the observation deck to Fox Pool. 2 rooms up on the 3rd floor became after school, our summer camp care, and then the 3 classrooms downstairs. We still have it set up as though it was still under pandemic. The groups never commingle. Their own designated space, their own designated bathroom. The only thing where we're having a crossover at this point is in the gyms, Martin and Fulton. But even with that, each group has its own set of toys that they're playing with, and balls and things, and nothing is crossed. So if we were to have a case or something, it's going to be very isolated. And that's how we've been operating the YMCA.
And I can just give it a first person. I don't go upstairs into where all the equipment is. I don't go up there. I've rarely gone up there because I go outside and run outside. So I've typically just come in, change clothes, go outside. But things are such now, you have to have a mask when you go into the Y. Now that goes without saying, you have to have a mask. But I can tell you, this is a clean place. So I go in there, I'm already wearing my clothes that I'm going to wear. So I go in, drop off my bag, walk out the door, gone for an hour. I come back, I have to get another temperature check, and I have to still wear my mask when I walk back in. So nobody comes into that place that doesn't fit the guidelines. You're very conscientious, and your staff is that way too.
It's very black and white.
Yeah.
What is expected
Sure.
at this point in time.
And you've had no problems, I'm going to guess?
There's always,
very few.
There's always a few
Yeah.
hemming and hawing, but this is how it has to be at this point in time. And you have choices. You can come in and do exactly what we need you to do.
I've seen a few faces.
Or not.
I have to have a mask. The first time that started, which was really only a couple of weeks ago, when you had to have a mask when you walked in, and people didn't know that. So there's always a little of that kind of getting through.
And you're obviously not wearing a mask when you're swimming.
Yes.
And when you're upstairs and you're on our wellness floors, you're allowed to drop your mask down and do
Right.
your exercise. So,
Right.
I mean, it's
No.
more than accommodating at this point in time.
So everything's really on hold like everything else is. We've got to wait till the governor makes some decisions. Things are, again, the last few weeks have been tightening up a little bit. They're getting a little more tough. I'm not sure whether they'll hit gyms or not, but certainly maybe bars and some other places are going to be perhaps tightened up a little bit on that. But last week we had on Scott Brew with the schools. Everything's kind of up in the air. You don't know where the county is going to be, what the condition is, where everything is. So it's almost day to day.
Well, and for us, we're trying to plan for child care for the fall and nursery school, preschool for the fall. And we don't know yet. I'm told, I believe we're going to hear, I think around the 1st of August from the governor of what those ratios are going to be. Whether those ratios continue is really going to predicate how we're going to plan for the fall. But I cannot plan for September at this point in time, or even when school starts at this point in time until we know, because the guidelines for school and the guidelines for us could be completely different.
Because there's kind of three basic plans for schools. There's all in, there's remote learning, or there's a hybrid. And that depends on where we are. Even right now,
On the color code, yes.
Yeah, so you don't know where the county's going to be. How's summer camp been so far?
It's been slow.
Yeah.
Well, the kids have had a ball.
Yeah.
We were able to make sure that they got swimming in. One group, again, would go in at a time and they would spread out. And I think that's the hardest thing right now is that we're very limited in what we can do for families. We don't have open swim. We don't have family swim. We can't do basketball at this point in time because that's still deemed as a contact sport. So when I look at where we are, our YMCA with other YMCAs around the state, we were the first, I believe we were the first swimming pool to open in all of central Pennsylvania in the beginning, because we were seeing a lot of away guests because we have the national reciprocity. We were seeing a lot from the Central YMCA Ohio Association. I think we were a good model. I think we've really done a really good job of bringing back as much as we're capable of bringing back. And if you look at where we are today and where some other YMCAs, we are way ahead of our opening.
And again, I have a limited perspective just early in the morning, the only times I'm there, but things are really run tight. I would feel comfortable recommending that if you have any questions, give them a call, ask them about any program that's been on in the past. You don't know whether it'll be on now or not. It may or may not, but certainly call, ask a question. The staff will help you out down there. So as we move through this, best of luck as this thing we hope continues to open up, and we hope for a good fall, and we'll just see how it moves in through.
Knock on wood. Amen.
Hope it does. It's been an interesting couple of times. Floods and pandemics. I hope you've seen it all.
Bring it on.
Howard Long, who's the director of the Fox Family Y down there, and again, the pandemic kind of controls everything we talk about now. We appreciate Howard being on with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
Fairfield Medical goes the extra mile to give attention to their patients, to their guests, anybody that comes within those doors.
There's no question that the staff there are all personally invested in seeing that I got the best care possible.
The staff was so comforting. I felt like she was in the best hands.
They basically gave me a second chance at life, and I'm going to make the most of it.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. Again, thanks to Howard Long for joining us and kind of keeping us up to date on the Y, a place that, again, when that place opened up over on 6th Avenue, I was just a junior high kid, and I've been involved in there practically my whole life. It's a wonderful place. Again, I've always been a West Sider at heart. I've always been so pleased that the Y has been on that side of town and been able to mean so much to the kids at the West Side, which is Miller Pool and everything on the West Side. I'm always a big proponent of that, so I want to thank Howard for stopping in. And again, thanks to the good folks here, Fairfield Federal, 125 years, their Custer-Montanez.
Say it again.
I said it once, and I don't have to say it again. See, this is how this program could devolve very quickly right here. I'm trying to keep it at a certain level, but it may not stay that way. They had all these great plans down here, and they were going to do so many great things this year, but like everything else, had to be scaled back. But I'd encourage you to go to their website. They still got an opportunity they have some funds that are going to be given away to nonprofits. The rules of the contest on there, you can vote to see who gets the money. It's a significant amount of money that all the nonprofits would enjoy having. FairfieldFederal.com is a good place to find that. Quasquicentennial. Pretty good, huh?
It's a great word.
Temple Custer-Montanez is our guest. She's the marketing guru for Fairfield DD, and she's also president of the Lancaster Kiwanis Club, and we may get to that in a little bit. But we'll start out with...
I picked quite a year to be president of Kiwanis, didn't I?
Well, I'd say it's been an easy year.
You think so?
I think so. That would be my term, because there's been no meetings now for half of your term.
Well,
we'll get into
true.
that. But again, last week we had on Scott Burry, and again, we always think about it's all about the children, and we understand that. So we talked about Lancaster City Schools and the effect it's had on them. But another group of young people that have been so affected by this have been your population, the DD children out there, Fairfield DD. And come last March, things were turned 180 degrees, and I hope they handled it well. I hope your staff handled it well. It was something like we've never seen.
Yeah, it absolutely was. So Forest Rose School, we have approximately 55 students at that school. Some of those students, believe it or not, are typical students in our preschool program. That's an integrated program. So there are, in any preschool classroom, there may be 12 students, and roughly a little bit more than half of those students are typical students. They work as, they serve as peer role models. So as the students get older, they tend to be a little bit more what we consider medically fragile students. Our goal is always to put ourselves out of a job at Forest Rose, meaning that we work really closely with the school districts in and around Fairfield County so that our students can get back into their home school districts. They can go to the same schools as their friends, neighbors, brothers, and sisters. So if those students are older and they're still at Forest Rose School, chances are they probably have some medical needs or some needs that just can't be met in their home school districts. So there's about 55 students at Forest Rose, and when the schools closed around the county, they closed at Forest Rose as well. Some of the issues that that arose when we sent our students home were not unlike other students that were around the county, and it was interesting because we started to archive this process in the words of, I think it was Winston Churchill, although the quote is attributed to many people. Our superintendent John Picard kept saying, "Okay, we're not going to waste this crisis," and so we started archiving, started making those phone calls pretty early on, checking in with parents and saying, how's it going? And we kept hearing the same things that that I was hearing from my own 14-year-old. Well, they miss their friends, and they don't want mom and dad to be the teacher.
Socialization.
Yeah.
Realize how important.
Miss the routine. Why is mom teaching me this when I want to be with my teacher and I want to be in the classroom and I want to be. Probably the primary difference with our students is that many of them are non-communicative, so they don't necessarily communicate with words. And when you don't communicate with words, a lot of times you get behaviors in place of communication. So a lot of behaviors were escalated.
Sure.
So a lot of those became a little bit more of an issue. And also, a lot of parents, sometimes when you have a child with severe medical needs as well as developmental needs, severe medical needs, one parent might have to choose to stay home from work. We have a lot of therapies that happen at Forest Rose School, and a lot of times those therapists need to get in and out of the home if they can't get in and out of the school. And again, in the pandemic, a parent might have to make a choice. Do you want that therapist to come in and out of the home? So a few more decisions involved with those families than may be involved with the typical
So back in March, things shut down. That's the end of that. So now 4 months later, here we are getting closer to early August and that. Where are we at the school now?
You know what? We're in the same confusing place as everyone else, unfortunately.
And not likely to change.
Right. We're meeting with all of the parents, same as everyone else. We would very much like, as would the parents, would like their kids back in school. You would think that parents of a child with a developmental disability would say they want to keep them a little closer to the chest than the rest of us. That's not the case. They want their children to have a typical experience like the rest of us do.
They know they need it.
Absolutely. They want that routine. They want that socialization. Again, their needs might be a little bit more medically fragile. So we really have to look at our students on a more case-by-case basis, and what could the potential dangers be. If you have a child that is on a breathing tube or on a breathing machine, why that child might be a little bit more at risk. We've got children that maybe have spent 8 months in a hospital last year. Do you want to take a chance with that child and put them in school this year? So, we really have to look at each student individually. But the goal, obviously, for every one of our students, like every other student in the county, is we'd love to have them back in a school environment with a sense of normalcy. I'm grappling with the same thing with my daughter, who, is physically and developmentally fine, but she has a father with some health needs. It's a lot of pressure to put on any student or any family. So it's a terrible time. So
as we look at in August, middle August, that's when, say, Lancaster City schools would have been and still will be starting up in some manner. The choices generally, right now we don't know what it'll be, but it's all in, everybody back, nobody back, and you do remote learning, but more likely than not there'll be some type of hybrid schooling. There'll be a couple days in, a couple days out. That'll move around. We're still up in the air because the county, it depends on where the county is and what our conditions are at that time. Is that still roughly what it will be for DD out there? Just kind of, you wait and see? We'll wait and see, and ironically, we have our board meeting tonight. So we will be discussing all of that tonight. The good news is all of that is on public record, so whatever they decide this evening will be available on our website. So, I don't know. Only time will tell. Has it been tougher on the parents of your folks more than it's been tough on, say, you as a parent with your child? I know that you said they had to make some decisions at some point. I think that I hate to speak for every parent. I think that the situations that they encounter are a little different. Yeah. Do I have to worry about therapists coming in and out of my house? No. Do I have to worry about staying home with my child to take care of those specific medical needs? No. But I'm not a single parent, and there could be a single parent out there who does have to worry about those things. Not better or worse, just different. Right, just different. Just different. But I think when it comes to the children, and we say this all the time, kids are kids. Yeah. Just because a kid can't look at you and speak doesn't mean that they don't have the same desires as any other child. So, just different. Been able to keep the staff together out there? Everything's still going? Yeah, our staff has been resilient, and they're so creative, and they're so dedicated, and the things that they did this spring, to keep those kids happy, they were just great. They were constant. They were great with the Zoom, and they were making the flat teachers. They would cut out pictures of them, take pictures of themselves, and cut out, make little shapes and send them to the kids. And they were doing drive-bys and parades, and they did all sorts of really neat stuff. Great online, and none of the teachers were prepared for that. And I know most of our teachers in our city schools weren't, our county schools weren't prepared for that either. So they were really resourceful and really creative, and hats off to all of our teachers and staff, not only at Forest Rose, but around Lancaster and Fairfield County all together. So, well, again, it's just for you, it's just like it is for the regular Lancaster City schools. We'll just wait and see, and the governor have the last say on a lot of this. And we'll maybe in August we'll see what's going on. I think the big thing too is that most of us have never been in a position where we had to make these monumental decisions before. As parents, as teachers, as facilitators, as community leaders, we've never had to make these decisions before. It's a big responsibility. Well, I asked Temple to come on today because she, as typical of Temple, she multitasks very well. And so not only is she the guru queen out at Fairfield DD, but she's also, as we mentioned earlier, the president of the Lancaster Kiwanis, the Noonday Club that meets Wednesdays in it. She has her helmet with horns on it. She just didn't wear it today. But one of the projects that Kiwanis has pretty much got underhand, and it's getting wrapped up, although there seems to be more things coming, is out at Hunter Trace Park out there on 22. As you turn in out there, what used to be just a big open area now is this beautiful All Abilities Park out there, which Lancaster, Kiwanis, and many other businesses and folks in town are involved. But you've been the president and kind of seen this through day one on this, and that's a pretty cool place out there.
It's a very cool place, and I'll tell you what, we've done the numbers and run the numbers, and that playground at Hunter Park and the playground at Rising Park are the two most utilized playgrounds in the county.
Really?
Yeah.
They must be busy because there's yellow tape saying don't come on, and they're packed.
Oh, they're packed all the time. In fact, my husband is an avid bicyclist, and every once in a while I will accompany him on a bike ride. In fact, he has to switch bikes. He has to use his slow bike when I go with him. But when we are on the bike path, goes right behind Hunter Park, and that park is always illegally packed.
Yes, illegally packed, as is Rising.
Right, but now Mr. Tharp told me the other day, the park superintendent, that they are looking at using some CARES dollars to hire someone full-time to do nothing but go into that park and disinfect it round the clock, because it's utilized so much that kids and families are using that park regardless of the yellow tape. So the good news is that people are really, really enjoying the facility. We'd like for them to be a little bit more careful about using it during this pandemic, but it is a multi-generational all abilities playground, which means that it is set up for people of all abilities. So whether you're using a walking device or a mobility device such as a wheelchair, whether you are a person who is elderly who wants to come and use the equipment with your grandchild, there are ramps. You have the ability to actually get on a swing of your own and then have a child on a swing in front of you, so you can swing with your grandchild. The picnic tables that we're getting ready to install, or that I think the picnic tables are installed now actually, are high enough that you could put a wheelchair underneath them. We have shade structures going up. We have accessible restrooms going in that have the correct height and the 36-inch clearance for wheelchairs that are going in. They're actually storage containers that are the restrooms are made out of storage containers. Those are being put in. We've got a brand new parking lot that's going in. So all of that stuff's getting ready to be wrapped up, and all of that will be in by the end of August.
And there's a lot of people that deserve kudos for this. Lancaster, Kiwanis being the driving force behind it, but I know
cast the net.
They worked close to Fairfield DD and to make sure everything was perfect for all those needs there. But I certainly, and you mentioned them, I wanted to mention Mike Tharp. The Lancaster parks have been instrumental.
Yes.
Obviously, it's easy to say would not have gotten done without the work of Mike Tharp and the entire Parks Department.
And the Southeastern Ohio Center for Independent Living helped us with that as well. We had some major financial donors, obviously. Like I said, Kiwanis just sort of cast the net and reeled in all the
turned out to be a great project.
So we were great fishermen.
And I know from your DD they were going to get an award, which may still have. They're going to get the award.
Oh, they are going to get an award.
But the banquet was kind of pushed back to. Is it still on for August, or do we know? Or?
It's on for November, but I would imagine.
Okay. Yeah. It looks
so is my trip
so
to
far
Turks
away.
and Caicos, and I don't think that's going to happen
We'll reschedule
either.
it for November, and now all of a sudden we're in August, and November looks shaky.
Yeah, it does.
So it's a little scary. Anyway, thanks for joining us.
Thank you
tell
for
us about
having
DD.
me. Yeah.
We're glad things.
Hey, listen,
we'll
check
see how
out
it
our
goes.
website, fairfielddd.com. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, so catch up with us anytime. We're doing some really cool stuff on
Twittergram,
Zoom.
Facegram.
Oh, for crying out loud, Paulie.
Old people shouldn't be allowed to even.
You know we have more channels
I want
than
to
4, 6,
apologize.
and 10,
I want to
right?
apologize for
Thank
that.
you.
I'm sorry. Thanks, Temple, for joining us
We
for
love you,
Fairfield
Paulie.
DD and Lancaster, Kiwanis. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
I'd like to see you on the slow bike if I ever get that
Okay.
chance. I'd like to see some video.
A slow boat bike to China.
That's our show at Fairfield Today.
Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.